Oh yeah. Hey there, folks. How y'all doing? Just jamming out to some Boston. I tell you, that band came out. I mean, it blew everybody away. It was a clean, crisp sound, and they put on a hell of a concert as well. So, welcome everybody. It's hump day. So, somewhere here. This is the middle of the hump day here, but could be late or before. I don't know. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in, dropping in, and turning on. Peace. Uh, Speaking favor over us all, nothing missing, nothing broken. How are y'all? Hello, everybody in the chat room. What's up? Hey, Nina. How you doing, darling? Mr. Floyd, what's up, my friend Shirley and Marco Polo? I saw Deborah Sloan said she was going to be listening. Much love, darling. Speaking favor over you. Goddess Sabina, how are you? Bernadette, good to see you. Justin, hello, Lost in Space. What's up? Let's see, DC, good to see you as well. Nina says, join her on Patreon for Hump Day message. Absolutely. Rick, good to see you. Jules, hello. So if I see your name, hey, go, all the way from Croatia. S. Lee, what's up, brother? Got to get you on, man. Land of Confusion, Kings, locks this cage, hitting the thumbs up. Hey, way to go. Purgatory Traveler, what's up, Emperor? Good to see you. So, trust you're having a good day in this. We definitely live in parallel dimensions simultaneously. And I had this thought this morning that more and more people have their identity in this alternate universe, this metaverse, this digital verse universe. So what's the verse? Come and tell me again. Um, as we try to play this out, that's confusion because you're trying to say, no, wait a minute. And particularly for, I say this um, merely because the demographics prove it. Um, for instance, the boomers are really not that generation that is like really into this digital verse. But you typically find the 30 somethings, they're really into it. And then it goes down from there. And it's like if AI didn't exist, it would spontaneously create itself. Because you look at what our species is doing. We find ourselves where people are identifying themselves in a digital verse. Now, the interesting thing about this digital verse is that, um, man, it's everywhere because it's the macro to the micro in its structure, and we feed it. That's the crazy thing about it. We feed it, and we feed it more and more all the time. And there's a war in this digital verse being fought right now. There's a website out there. I should pull it up sometime. But anyway, it will show you World War III has been ongoing for, hell, I know, for at least 20 years. World War III in the digital verse. It's there, it's happening. And now you can see it in real time, baby. Pew, pew. And that leads you into confusion. Now, I got to spell this out because there's many different types of confusion. Um, in the case that we'll be talking about, confusion of the soul or the spirit. This is not confusion due to an illness like dementia or Alzheimer's or injury. Uh, we're speaking of the soul here. And Also, assuming a healthy mind and spirit. You know, there are so many that are soul sick. It's a true illness. And it's interesting because in this digital verse, it's really odd because the digital verse really doesn't dig the whole soul spirit thing because that's a distraction out of it. Can't have that. And so the thing about the digital verse, it is in a constant state of confusion. You don't know what is truth, what is a lie. You make your mental verse through the receiving of what this thing is. It's absorbed us all. But we will sit back and say, but I can turn it off. Sure. May come a time when that's going to be exactly what happens. Someone's going to let off an EMP. But and if that ever happens, I think psychically it will put a mind fuck on this species, us humans, big time. Because again, when you blend the temporal and you put the corporeal into the digiverse, the thing about the digiverse is that it's immortal. One way or another, it's out there. Unless everything collapses in and then it wipes, then we get into a new cycle. Maybe that's why. Maybe so much knowledge brings this confusion. And the thing about what is so seductive about the digital verse is that it lures you in, particularly if you're a seeker. I mean, back when I was in the day, the digital verse was the Encyclopedia Britannica. And now I don't know if it's metamorphized or if it has transcended, but now it's been absorbed by this digital verse. And that's where confusion is, because confusion is really the primary one. Well, I could say almost one of you could say the cornerstone, you could say the footing to the foundation. We can't handle too much information. It confuses us. And then it got me to thinking, well, okay, so confusion can be many times associated with lost. You're not able to find your direction. You can't really make a decision. You may have all the data, but you're confused. Well, that's not being lost as much as it is doubt. I mean, if you have all the information, logic would say, then you would be able to extrapolate the data that you needed to either prove your hypothesis or to validate the construct. And that's confusion. I can remember when I began to question my beliefs. Now, that's a state of confusion. A person changes political parties or ideologies. That's confusion. And in this digital verse, it really is the social substrate. of everything that we call reality. And it's changed us. It's changing our cultures where it's interesting. I was a part of, the Cultural Revolution of the 60s that led into the early 70s. It was a social revolution, a cultural one. We were, rebellion against the establishment. We grew our hair long. We smoked marijuana. We dropped LSD. We went to these gatherings, later termed rock concerts, but nevertheless, it was a gathering of a lot of really hip people, and some were hipper than others. Well, that was the cool thing because they kind of carried you, You came into us, and it was a beautiful vibration. But it's really interesting to see that as much as this was apparent, and you would have thought, and it has its lasting uh, aspects and components, but it was really out of the boomer generation that's brought this prison alive. So I don't know if, all of that was as cool as it really was. We have a tendency as a species to romance and the ideas of our youth. You know, it's like, yeah, mm-hmm. And in our case, there may be some foundation, but nevertheless, here we are in this digital verse. We seek knowledge. That's why we congregate. Isn't that an interesting word? We congregate. And then we go on these adventures. And they are. They're adventures of the mind, of the soul. We come together and we find out that no one has the same inner vision of God, goddess, reality, non-reality, the physical, the spiritual, the mental. It's all unique. We're drawn because we find that there is this attraction that, although it's not identical, it's similar enough that you can allow, even for the briefest time, the shields down. We all keep shields in many different ways. They're sacred places within us all that not even God is allowed in. And I think that's pretty fucking cool. You think about it, not even God. Wasn't that one of the things about Dune? Is that, that there was a place of the feminine that no man can enter into? Yeah. We all got these sacred temples within us. And for many of us, we add daily to our temples. Now, those temples can be in many different forms and functions, but nevertheless, they're sacred. And again, no God is allowed in there. Typically, the only God that is allowed in there is you. So there you go. Hello, Grace. How you doing? Mary Wins, much love to you, darling. Lori, hello. Bonnie, what's up? Rick, good to see you. Greedy, hello. Brandy, there's a song about you. Brandy, you're a fine girl. Anyway, like Paul Joe, what's up? John, good to see you. So anyway, there was my opening thoughts. Hello, David Barry. How are you, my brother? Good to see you. The guy says, practice makes more practice. Indeed. I mean, I think perfection, and I'll put this out there, kind of a instant poll out there. I don't believe in perfection anymore. I mean, what would be the point of reaching perfection? What comes after perfection? Now, it may be because I'm limited in my ability to think on higher planes, higher levels of intelligence. I can dig that. All right, that's cool. But I am one smart individual. May not have it all figured out, but I'm collecting the pieces. Um, but yeah, it's like, sure. But seriously, hmm, makes one think. Anyway, um, me neither. Susie Q, how you doing, darling? Uh, but perfection, I mean, again, why? What? Seriously, you want to talk about being out of touch with reality? If there is such a place, may I posture a thought that wouldn't that be kind of a permanent death? See, I mean, if there's again, there may be something above perfection. I don't know. But in my limited perspective, I'm trying, and I come to these in my meditation time, and I'm just sitting there. A lot of times it can be doing something or just simply going into that secret place, and I'm going perfection. All my life, I worked towards this ideal of perfection. Hello, consciously aware. Perfection is but an accumulation of everything together. There you go. If everything in your existence did not happen perfectly, yeah, see, that's one perspective, and again, I love it. It brings out, but nevertheless, for myself, as I look at this, I always work towards it, and I held other people to a state of perfection that never really existed and would have been impossible to have been. It's the small paradoxes that makes it all beautiful, huh? So anyway, tell me what you think. And is that where you're working towards is perfection? Hello, Stephanie. What's up? Good to see you. Bonnie says it's better to have not perfection because that means there is something that's not perfect, and in reality, everything just is. Living in the moment, right? Living in the now. Because in the now, even time itself stops. I mean, time is a force. Hmm. So anyway, you're either confused or indoctrinated. Shadow files, I love that. That's cool. Yeah, exactly. So, we were talking about spiders yesterday, and in my digital verse, my library, here's one. And all of these are modern day constructs, but I still thought it was cool. So this is the invocation of the arcane, the spider goddess of the void. Some people just, like my wife, she wants nothing to do with spiders, dead or alive. Anyway, so someone came up with this, and I thought this was interesting. With the blood of the dragon, I open the gates of the night side, and I call forth the spider goddess of the void, queen of forgotten temples, the excuse me, Arachne. She who rises to consume the world in her venom. I walk through the gateway of the Qualith, into the black womb of the dragon to ignite the draconian flame of Gnosis. Isn't that odd that knowledge, Gnosis, occult, hidden, it's always framed within this spooky thing, this realm of grotesqueness. And I don't know, not sure if it's really that way or not. Yeah. Anyway, come forth to me from the lost realms of Atlantis. Arise from the forbidden temples beneath the paths of the night side. Enter through the gates of flesh. Okay. And inflame this body, which I offer you as a temple. Seducer of souls. There we got the souls thing again. What is it with the souls? It's not the spirit. It's the souls again. Devourer of gods. Inject your venom into my soul. Let it flow in my veins and transform it through your forbidden alchemy. Fortify my soul with your primal essence. Open the eye of the dragon and reveal to me knowledge and wisdom of the ancients. I always get back to the ancients. If we're so damn smart and we got this thing all figured out, why is it that we still look to the ancients in this lost knowledge? Because it is lost. You know, these upheavals, whether it was Babylon, Alexandria, Constantinople, however, they stole it, burned it, they did, or put it into the river and let the ink flow. Let's see. And let me walk through the paths of the spider. Dark goddess of venomous alchemy, I call you to enter my flesh, my mind, and my soul, my whole being. Arachne, spider queen of space. There you go, folks. All right. I found this interesting, and I thought with this group, it's right there on target. So this is a paper, it's only a very short paper, saying becoming God in the multiverse. Isn't that odd how everything is just kind of flows? Yeah. Says this work explores the nature of God, whether it be consciousness in the multiverse, according to Paul C. McComb's structurization theory of the of the phenom. I had this word out and it was like, okay, I knew I was going to screw it up. The phenomenon sociology structuralism. The author posts that God is not omnipotent, omnipotent being that stands outside of space-time to create the multiverse or manifest it out in its consciousness. Okay. Instead, God is a human metaphor for consciousness, an emergent fifth force of nature. I love that. We're the fifth force. Love that. Emanating from a psychonic, panpsychic, subatomic field of the superverse, which constitutes the multiverse along with gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. God is the evolution of consciousness at the subatomic particle level, an emergent fifth force of nature. Again, a psychonic, panpsychic, subatomic field which evolves via experiences in the macro world as embodied aggregate neural energy, with the phenomenal properties in the microtubules of brain, recycled, entangled, superimposed throughout the multiverse. In the human ethos, the psychonic panpsychic subatomic field that is consciousness becomes God, which is associated with attributes that we embody or must embody in order to organize and reproduce our being in a material resource framework. Seriously. You know, you can read that, but you go back. I mean, we're talking on the subatomic level. Now, I'm not a quantum physicist. I'm not. I've read on the subject. And one of the things that I found interesting decades ago was when we discovered quarks. Quarks, they're neither here, but neither there. They seem to come in to our reality and then they leave our reality. So, doesn't that imply, even to a simple mind, that if they're going somewhere, that somewhere has to be something? I mean, unless you believe they're going into nothingness, and out of nothingness, they come forth into this realm. 7 years ago, I did this whole video on D-Wave computers and how they had created the God chip and how their CEO, when they first turned it on, said it felt like kneeling before an alien God. And when you read and you go back and check that video out, it's very interesting because it's almost like God isn't this super verse of this being, but the real reality is it's on the super micro scale. If all existence is built upon the smallest, then if there is this so-called force, this energy, wow, what would be available? I think everything. Is that perfection? Is perfection the place that the spirit mind can go to, that where you inhabit the realm of all possibilities? This life here, and if we call it life, it may be actually the death realm, but it says that anything's possible here. Now, if you're born poor, born, not in the society Ohio structures, apparently that doesn't matter. Apparently we have this ability to call things forth that really don't exist and call them as though they do exist. This fifth force of nature. Yeah. Anyway, and it's a great little paper. Again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time reading on it, because it deals with the fact that when you look at this phenomenological structuralism, we come into this realm and we are told that there is this structure. And that in this structure, there are laws, there are rules that can't be broken. I often wonder, well, if they can't be broken, then why is there a consequence if you're trying to break them? Uh, but I digress. Uh, but there is this structure. Everything. Is that God? And that would be basically we enter into this arena. It continues to validate that we are, in fact, gods, any way you look at it. Guy, I know you're in the chat room. I can't enter into your mind, those sacred places within, goes with Paul as well, and vice versa. But yet we can share ideas. Well, that just tells me no matter where you are, of any perceived, class, group, demographic, whatever, and it doesn't mean you have to stay that way. Because as gods, we can literally change this multiverse that we're in. Are y'all digging this? I mean, it's wild. Now, there is so much other energy, and energy has a tendency to have mass, which in tendency, if it has a lot of energy, it can be confusing. Someone wrote to me and said, explain to me why you keep calling things that be not as though they are. They said that, they said it sounds familiar, but it sounds like it's magic. I wrote back to him and I said, yeah, of course it's magic. It's exactly what magic is made of. Then I directed him to him. I said, the exact quote it says, now faith is, which means now faith is always now. It's never in the past, never in the future. It's ever present now. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, calling those things that be not as though they are. Now, I may not be no super magician or wizard or whatever, but I want to tell you what, I know that fucking verse. I know it, and I know it works. You don't have to be a part of a group. You can just be your own god, goddess. That's what you are anyway. And so if we all have this ability of drawing upon this substance is, I guess, perfection, because perfection could be defined as well as existing where all possibilities, probabilities, possibilities are possible. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty cool. I mean, you think about the microtubules of the brain. We've talked about how the synaptic pathways, we can build new synaptic pathways. Now, a diseased brain can't. It actually is the reverse. Those synaptic pathways become very brittle and they break. But if you have an active mind and you keep training your brain, any person can lay down synaptic pathways and actually break or have a new habit. Goes with relationships. You spend that initial time with someone, you're actually laying down new synaptic pathways. It's far fucking out, if you ask me. But anyway, so just a thought. Now, there is something else too I wanted to share with you too, because we're going to get back to the whole Lucifer thing. I'm going to go through these. It's a number of books, and each one is very lengthy. But the thing is, it again, it shows that everything is based on the mind. They're out to control our minds, man. All right, so our discussion is the spooky guy, Lucifer, Satan. Um, Someone sent an email and wanted to know why, why do you think that this is so important that you spend so much time on it? And just wrote back and I said, well, the fact that if you're writing tells me a lot right there. This is the one single thing that has most people the most confused. And it's in our complete culture. We indoctrinate children, young adults, and then once they go through the pupae stage of adolescence, this becomes part of that synaptic pathway laid there. Everyone thinks that Satan or Lucifer is wrong. And the way I see it is as these motifs have developed, because these are all modern belief systems. They try to claim going back, and we're going to read some of that, maybe before mankind was here. Well, if that's the case, then we're dealing with extraterrestrials. And if they're not extraterrestrials, then it means that I guess that they are terrestrial beings that were here before we were. And then, the whole question is, are we sharing the planet with someone? Anyway, but it seems to me that even the religious beliefs that are built around Satanism, really isn't religious beliefs where Luciferians are concerned. But nevertheless, we can't exist as a species unless we have this bad person, this bad entity, this bad God. Because everybody says they have the right God. Our God is supreme. Our God is superior. And then you got the conflict, because it's us humans that get involved in the middle of it. If this is the case, then fine, keep that. I don't want it. I've seen it, and I've seen it primarily from one perspective, which this is just how I am. And if you're going to tell me that this is what reality is, and that I am not allowed to go and pursue information that may or may not back up what I am being told is reality, truth. And here in the West, it's the Judeo-Christian thought virus, and it is a virus. And it's like any other virus. Viruses change you, what they do. And so this has been a channel that's documented that journey. So we get down to the nitty gritty. So if Satan, Lucifer are the bad ones, then why? How'd that come about? Because I know the story of the Bible itself. We know it. It goes right back to Sumer, and then you got to go further back than that. You go all the way back to India. So this is why we study this, because it basically opens a new door of thinking that begins to quash the confusion. Now, it may not be the true facts, but, since we live in this mind verse, this digital verse anyway, and that seems like the whole foundation of this ideology, this fabric we call reality, society, is built on this concept God, that this is a good God that kills, murders, and maims. Then he maims and murders his own so-called son. We get into that story, and then, supposedly that's going to allow us to go to salvation. In the meantime, we got this bad guy who's coming in and says, well, I ain't putting up with that nonsense, and they're coming. And so we seem to have two enemies. Now, I don't know. I've never really examined what my so-called enemy is. And what I've done is I've sat down at the table, spiritually speaking, and said, okay, let's have a talk. I'm not afraid of you. You know, I mean, once you disavow your vows to this God, there ain't no going back. As according to their word, you've committed the unpardonable, unforgivable sin. So there ain't no going back. And that's cool because, yeah, I'm used to operating without a safety net. As an entrepreneur, you get really good at that. Most people have these nets that they always have as a backup. The problem with if you always have this safety net, then you're not truly committed. It's when there's no safety net and you're up on the tight wire. Yeah. All right. So Satan was originally called Lucifer. Now I get it where he's coming from. I don't think it's actually the case, but I get it, which means light bringer. He was a seraphim, angel in heaven. Eventually, as to mythology, he grew jealous of God's power and attempted to overthrow him, gathering up legions of followers, approximately 33 trillion of these angels, and revolting against God. So we've done our commentary that if God is perfect, and then you have a revolution against that, well, then that doesn't make sense. I digress. So he was defeated by the archangel Michael and cast into hell as punishment. So from that, guess God created hell. Here we go again, going, okay. It is said that on the day of the great white throne judgment, Satan shall rise to power again and lead another war against heaven. This time he and his followers will be cast down by God himself and sent to a lake of burning fire, hell, as an eternal punishment for their many sins. Okay, I just have a simple question here. I wish I'd had this like freaking 40 years ago, maybe even 50 when I first, but I was too young. So this Satan, this Lucifer, the light bringer, brings forth knowledge, wisdom. Satan, apparently above the archangels, pride looked upon his heart, so it says. Okay. So you're telling me this intelligent creature apparently is very intelligent, very persuasive. I mean, how many politicians do you know that have 33 trillion supposedly followers? So he apparently knows how to get a crowd going. So if he knows this, if we know it, and he knows it, why would he do this? I mean, this gets into this predestination prophecy thing. It means that this is a rigged game. Because why would you go through all the drama? If you're God, right? So why is God acting like Caesar? Maybe because God is Caesar. Maybe Caesar is God. But anyway, so I don't know. I mean, if he does go with the narrative, then it's an inside job. In Islamic belief, Satan is referred to as the Iblis, the shaitan, and did not rebel against God out of jealousy, of the Creator's power, but rather out of the contempt for mankind, who God created and had his other creations bow down to. There is one of those uh, stories, the Apocrypha, that basically says that when God created Eve, and I think it was really Lilith, but when he created, let's just go with Lilith, that creation had never seen a female body before. And it was said that when all of creation saw her, they worshiped her. Then this is why this God, and even in the Islamic belief systems, um, think about it, ladies. You really don't have a place in heaven per se. Uh, the reward is, the 72 versions. And I'm going, okay, it seems limited and a little off, but okay. But anyway, so this shaitan doesn't dig us, who God created and had his other creations bow down. The Iblis refused to bow to mankind and was as such banished from paradise, because there is no perfection in Islam, is paradise, and given only the power to corrupt humans until the day God would return to pass judgment on the world. The stories are so similar, aren't they? But for me, I'm going, all right, so where did God go? And of course, if you get into the religion, of which I am not part of, but yet read their book, it's an interesting story. And I find the narrative, again, to have the similarity feel and vibe as the Old Testament. I mean, you get in the book of Deuteronomy, you want to talk about this God of the Old Testament. Holy crap. This God curses and apparently is good at it. Says in the Old Testament, he is simply an angel referred to as Ha-Satan, or the adversary, the accuser. That's all he does in the court, just accuses. It's the prosecutor, district attorney. Yeah. They even got the legalese in heaven. Yeah, that's where it came from, right? It's important to note that he was viewed as the enemy of man, not God. He was one of God's closest angelic advisors. The Satan's job was to tempt man away from God's law. This was intended as a means of testing man's righteousness. Do I have a few things I could say on that? But moving along. So the description of Satan is found in the Old Testament, Ezekiel 28:12 through 19. Says, you were the perfection of wisdom and beauty. You were in Eden. All right, well, that's it. No, you're telling me you had this super angelic being was in Eden. Well, isn't that where we came in? That's where we were supposedly. So the deck was stacked against us. I mean, did this God tell Adam and say, oh, by the way, let me just tell you, you really got to watch your ass around here. There is this dude who's like really pissed at you. Not me. And Adam's going, what? What? Never even met him. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Your clothing was adorned with every precious stone, red carnelian, crystallite, white moonstone, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald, all beautifully crafted for you and set in the finest gold. These people, these beings are sounding pretty human, right? And think about it. Why would an angel like gold or precious stones? They were given to you on the day you were created. So this being was created perfect, apparently. Or aren't all spirits created perfect? I mean, if you were created imperfect, then for you to be perfect would be a sin. If you were created imperfect, then your natural nature, state of being, is to be imperfect. To do anything else would be counter to your creation. Boy, anyone got a joint? Let's pass it around on this one. Holy crap. All right, so anyway, he was created. This God says, I ordained and anointed you as the mighty angelic guardian. So this is above the archangels, way above. Talk about pay grades. This is like someone making $20 an hour where you got this being that's making, in realistic terms, he's making $20 million an hour. Anyway, you had access to the holy mountain of God and walking among the stones of fire. You were blameless in all you did from the day you were created until the day evil was found in you. My mind now, when I read this, and I read this so many times, I mean, many, many, many sermons on this particular passage. I know it well, but I never question it. And I look at it today and I'm going, wait a minute, time out. So evil was found in a perfect creation. What? And then it goes on and says, your great wealth filled you with violence and you sinned. I mean, we're going to have to talk about that. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. And then it goes on to say, so I banished you from the mountain of God. So I have read the verse that says, this God, anything of sin is immediately destroyed, consumed in fire. So why wasn't this cat just done? End of story, end of problem. Let's move on with perfection. No. But this is where the whole story comes from, supposedly. I expelled you, almighty guardian. So those of you who have your beliefs in Satan and what have you, you should know that it is a mighty guardian. It's not, that's above an archangel. It's like, yeah. From your place among the stones of fire. I used to sit and draw out what this place must have been. When you think about it, so this being, this ultimate being, lives on this mountain. Why? But it talks about these stones of fire. There's very little on this that I found that was substantive in the context, but can you imagine? I mean, is this like, ground zero? Is this 000? This is where everything is? This, I don't know. It says your heart was filled with pride because of all of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. Interpretation: the dude realized he was really fucking rich and just started partying. So I threw you to the earth and exposed you to the curious gaze of kings. So the kings were here before. Why would this God want to throw this being to Earth. What? It's not like he's got the whole fucking universe that he could throw this being at. No, had to put it here on Earth. You defiled your sanctuaries with your many sins and your dishonest trade. So I brought fire from within you, and it consumed you. I let it burn you to ashes on the ground in the sight of all who were watching. All who knew you are appalled at your fate. You have come to a terrible end, and you are no more. Well, hate to tell you, dude, we got a problem because he's still here. He didn't get burned up. I don't know what you saw, but that no, the dude is still here. If it's a dude, I keep on saying that the Old Testament God is anti-woman. Well, it's nothing to do with women. So if Satan is this bad hombre, it may be a dudette. In popular culture, Satan is depicted as the red-skinned humanoid with the legs of a goat, similar in many ways to the Roman god Pan. He varies from having bat-like wings or none at all, and tends to have a long tail with a forked end. His weapon of choice tends to be a pitchfork, and he is always seen treading to the fires of hell or tempting some poor soul. An adept shapeshifter, Satan is said to take on any form he pleases in order to tempt people, but the satyr form, known as Diablos, remains one of his most famous persons. Excuse me. Satan is also frequently confused with Baphomet, a goat-headed demon, a hermaphrodite, strongly associated with black magic, and due to this, the two beings often merge. This is also the case of many of Satan's alter egos, such as Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, or Baal. Many of Satan's altered egos are based on ancient fertility gods or pagan deities that the early church viewed as evil, and as such added into the infernal hierarchy of demons with Satan as their Lord and Master. Over the centuries, however, demonology became less popular and the infernal hierarchy concept faded away, though some still believe in it. And there you go. There's our story of how all of this got started. And I think about this. So, you know, they say that for the first 300 years, could you imagine 300? The United States is not even 300 years. Look how we have a state of confusion today in this country on the Constitution, interpretation of the Constitution, tens of millions of amicus briefs, filings, interpretations, rulings from the bench, et cetera, on the interpretation of the Constitution. Now, let's put it in the same context. There isn't a Bible. There is no Bible because there ain't no religion. So for 300 years after the state murder and execution of supposedly this innocent dude that supposedly was resurrected, we can go back all the way to ancient Egypt with that story. But so for 300 years, you have all these different schisms. And think about this. They're making this shit up. All these demons we read about today and the angels that we read about. I mean, I've never seen a manual from hell that said, no, Steiger, this is the real story. I haven't seen it one from heaven. In fact, I can tell you in all 50 plus years of me studying that book, I never saw an original. Not one. Not even a copy. Never saw an original book. It's like, how do I know that this is what it was really said? Wow, where did the time go? I love these discussions. Indeed, indeed, indeed. I hope you do too, because this is what we do. We question them. And I tell you, there's bad hombres in this world. And, you know, it doesn't always need to be this way. I think about the fact that these cats are really wanting to start this world war. And war doesn't do anything but kill people, destroys infrastructure. Whoa, wait a minute. So if Satanism is about destruction and rebuilding, well, did someone still plagiarize the manual? Because now we got holy wars. God is in this war. You can read the Old Testament. A lot of wars that this God was all behind, and you're going, holy crap. So it's the direct attributes or the same attributes of this being called Satan, the scary guy. I'm going to be honest with you, their guy is scary. In fact, one of the ones that made a religion about it said, you don't want to be in its presence. Well, I thought it was love. Sure. So anyway, enjoying the discussion. I mean, the point to all this is that if we can begin to dispel these types of beliefs, when we look at other grimoires or other ancient documents of supposedly belief systems, I think it allows us the opportunity to re-examine what's going on. I mean, I got people right now, even in my family, that have just saying, oh, man, you've gone so far, crossed the line so far. There ain't a line anymore. You can't even see it. That's how far you've crossed it. But yet, they will never discuss the merits of the foundation of the so-called belief system that we were all a part of. No. They're more afraid of me than anything else. I've had guests I've tried to invite on this, and and I'm going, where am I the bad guy in this? I mean, this because I happen to focus in on this because it's a hell of a mind virus. It's a spell. And it will bring you into a place of confusion. But confusion's all right. All right, so I'm confused on the facts. How do I change that? Study, meet other like-minded people like in here. We have these daily little chats. I mean, those in the chat room and, the people that listen. Thank you. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. You won't go to hell for it. You really won't. But yeah, because I question the narrative. I'm not supposed to do that, dude. And the other thing is the fact that, like Jeffrey Doherty, I mean, when you have this knowledge that's just been ingrained into you, yeah, you have to begin to tear it apart, examine it, look underneath the rug, see what they were hiding. And you know what? They were hiding a lot, a whole lot. But they don't want you going around telling other people what you found under the rug. Oh, no, 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 no. Word might get out that, hey, they're going to see exactly what kind of a Ponzi scheme this really is. Don't listen to that dude. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And yeah, you can bring up all the, yeah, but, I know your book. I know the book better than you do. I know the history behind the book. I know the actual history, not the one that's trying to be painted as the narrative. Well, now you're going to go and get into facts. We ain't talking to you. All right, folks. Much love to you. What's up, Wesley? In 1921, Italians under Mussolini remedied I don't give a damn. Yeah, it gets into that point, doesn't it? Hey, Deborah, how are you, darling? All right. Randy says they're hiding and stealing yeah, they are. All right, folks. Well, I went way over on this, but hey, you know, I know other people have their other beliefs. That's all right. Yeah. Just learn to examine and question your beliefs. That's what you're here for. All right. Much love. Hugs to everybody. And have yourself a great hump day. Check out Nina over on Patreon. And yeah, love is the answer. Love is the answer. So it's the only way I know how to go about it, you know. And I know that there's many different types of love, but I do have the a version of it in my spirit, you know, is to, love is not judgmental. It's not touchy. It's not fretful. Doesn't have envy, you know. Yeah, I can dig that. Love's all around. Reminds me of this youth group I was with. But that's a time for another story in a different place. All right, folks, have yourself a great day. Much love to you. Thank you for being here, and I do appreciate all of y'all. We'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow.